My bad. Ice Spice is a woman of many talents, and although rapping may not be one of them,
I covered this story a couple of days ago about Ice Spice losing weight.
A woman has died after taking Ozempic to slim down for her daughter's wedding. 56-year-old mum Trish Webster managed to lose a total of 16 kilos after starting the drug that's traditionally used for diabetes.
Most people thought I was just talking about her dancing and twerking in videos, but that was not what the video was about.
Black box warning on Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, Trulicity, Byetta, you name it. All of them have a black box warning that this Gila monster venom and the venom protein for those interested is called Exendin-4, EXENDIN-4. Black box warning is within 12 to 36 months, you will develop medullary thyroid cancers of all kinds. Oncologists around the world, after seeing my interviews about this drug being made from venom, have told me it's not thyroid cancers they're seeing in all their Ozempic patients. It's exploding breast cancer diagnoses.
She's really good at twerking.
Like, she's really good at twerking, which is why this is so hard to announce, because the Ice Spice may have melted.
56-year-old mum Trish Webster managed to lose a total of 16 kilos after starting the drug that's traditionally used for diabetes. Husband Roy said that while his wife was losing weight, she was also frequently ill, often suffering from diarrhea and nausea. One day, brown liquid started coming out of her mouth and she wasn't breathing. Doing CPR, it kept pouring out, and tragically, Trish passed away that night on January 16, 2023. Her death certificate states that the cause was an acute gastrointestinal illness, and while the coroner's conclusion doesn't draw a direct link to the drug, Roy believes it contributed to her death.
Ozempic. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I definitely tried it. When I tell you it was the worst decision I ever made. So if this is a warning to anyone, please, if you're thinking about doing it, do not take it. Like, it's so not worth.
She's lost a lot of weight and it's catching a lot of attention. We know her for being really curvy, but now she's looking like a stick figure. We are all the curves. I'm not the only one wondering. Her fans are wondering as well.
If you're thinking about doing it, do not take it. Like, it's so not worth it. I took it for 2 weeks and I've never felt so sick in my life. I felt so sick one day. I said to my friend, like, I can't keep any water down. I can't keep any food down, like no liquids, nothing. I need to go to the hospital. Like, I feel really sick.
I was only on Ozempic for about 4 months.
When I ended up in the ICU, an intensive care unit, for 10 days, I nearly died.
Ashley suffered what's now emerging as a serious concern, a severe gastrointestinal reaction to the drug.
The doctors told me it was what they call a perfect storm. The side effects of the Ozempic gave me pancreatitis. The pancreatitis caused me to vomit uncontrollably. I actually remember one of the ER doctors telling me that he roped in every specialist that he could so that he could try to save my life.
So that leads me to this, Ozempic. Ozempic, you know, I think that was what the commercial kind of go like. I'm trying to see if I can recall. I'm not somebody who needs to lose weight, but for me to be able to recall what that commercial was, that means they did a lot of marketing, a whole lot of marketing. I'm a very fit person, but when you say the word Ozempic, they were so much in our face that I remember what the commercial looked like or what it sounded like. Because I remember it was like, Ozempic, you know, something of that nature. But for me to remember that, so imagine people who are actually morbidly obese and have been struggling with their body weight for quite some time. To them, that would be like, oh my God, this is the cure for all my problems, right? And then you have a celebrity like Oprah Winfrey backing the medication and saying she uses Ozempic or whatever, right? So you have Oprah saying she uses Ozempic and she has the biggest or one of the biggest audience. Everybody's looking up to her. She lost a lot of weight. She did, but nobody is talking about the side effects. The side effects is that people are dying from this medication. When I mean people are dying from it, I'm talking about uncontrollable bleeding, like a stomach ulcer. The side effects from this medication just goes on. Like, it's not worth taking it. Coming from somebody who's a personal trainer and got a degree in exercise science, the truth is, you know, like, people need to tell people the truth when it comes to obesity and trying to lose weight. The thing is, like, fat cells, you can only make them smaller. You cannot lose fat cells. Whoever told you in the past that you could lose your fat cells, they lied to you. So if you're fat or morbidly obese, you cannot lose your fat cells. The only thing you can do about it is make them smaller. And by the time you get to eating again, those fat cells are going to want to eat up to go back to their regular size. So the truth is, what you need to do is try not to let them split. So basically, you know how like cells they get bigger. When they get bigger, they become two. Like they divide themselves into two cells. So if you have one fat cells, the goal is to keep it one. Because when that fat cell get bigger, it becomes two. And once it becomes two, you can never make it one again. The only thing you could do is make those two fat cells smaller. And that is the truth. Nobody is willing to tell people the truth, especially when it comes to weight loss. The truth is, the amount of fat cells you have, you can never reduce it. All you could do is make it smaller.
I didn't know how to use the Ozempic pen, and I put the 4 times the amount in my body.
Right.
What happened before I put it in my body is I thought, I'm not going to be eating, so I'm going to have one fiesta. So I
puked all over the studio.
And then we did the promo, and I knew.
We tried.
Come play with us forever and ever and ever.
Bobby's breathing. Swallows. Look at him. Big breath.
Come play with us.
That's it. Keep watching. Keep watching. Keep watching. This is the last.
Black box warning on Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, Trulicity, Byetta, you name it. All of them have a black box warning that this Gila monster venom and the venom protein, for those interested, is called Exendin-4, EXENDIN-4. Black box warning is within 12 to 36 months, you will develop medullary thyroid cancers of all kinds. Oncologists around the world, after seeing my interviews about this drug being made from venom, have told me it's not thyroid cancers they're seeing in all their Ozempic patients. It's exploding breast cancer diagnoses in them. You're going to see every form of cancer from these drugs. FDA just added another warning that it causes gastroparesis. Do you know what that is? Paralyzed stomach for years, meaning you will vomit every day for the rest of your life. And there is a CNN article from last year says hundreds of thousands now have paralyzed stomachs that cannot be reversed for years after stopping Ozempic. Anybody with diabetes, this drug is promoted for diabetes. It is published. It worsens and speeds up diabetic retinopathy. Do you know what that is? You will be blind faster.
And what you need to be trying to do is try not to get them to split into two. Because when they get big enough, a single fat cell will divide into two, but two fat cells can never become one fat cell. Does that make any sense? So basically, one fat cell, if you keep eating, would become two. It would split itself into two. Versus, okay, now you are fat and you want to lose weight. Those two fat cells, you can never make them one again. All you can do is make them smaller. Everyone who is trying to lose weight or on a journey to weight loss need to know this. So taking Ozempic, man,
I feel sorry for people, bro.
Side of Ozempic, you guys know I'm a big advocate of people using the GLP-1 medications for diabetes and for weight loss if they meet the qualifications for them. But there is a dark side and we have to talk about it. The dark side being the adverse effects. And to do this, we're going to look at the Step 5 trial where they took participants who were enrolled into one of two groups. One would be the semaglutide group plus lifestyle interventions versus placebo plus lifestyle interventions. And they monitored them over 2 years or 104 weeks and saw what happened. So what they found was in the semaglutide group, they lost on average around 15% of their body weight versus the placebo plus lifestyle interventions lost on average somewhere around 2.5% of their body weight. But what were the adverse effects? Let's talk about it. The first thing would be how many people stopped the trial because the adverse effects were so bad. Well, in the semaglutide group, it was around 6%, whereas the placebo was around 4%. So what were the most common side effects? These would be GI side effects, namely nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and constipation. And this occurred in about 84% of the semaglutide group versus about 53% in the placebo group. And in terms of completely discontinuing the medication because of these adverse effects, we're about 4% in the semaglutide group and less than 1% in the placebo group. There were some serious adverse events, but it was actually less in the semaglutide group, about 8% in the semaglutide group versus close to 12% in the placebo group. And you guys could check out the actual article.
Like, people are dying from this, guys. People are dying left and right, but you're not talking about the side effect. And the celebrities are making it worse, because at the end of the day, they get a check. They get a check for advertising the product, pushing more people into taking poison. Like, I feel like the people who manufactured this medication or this drug or discovered it and decided it would be good for weight loss, they need to be in prison. They need to be jailed.
Hi, everyone. Ones who don't know me, I'm Linnea Simpson, and I'm here to tell my story. I took Ozempic last year because I trusted my doctor, and I'm overweight. I have a depression from my past, my future. I've been through a lot of dark times, but I saw a video today. Selena Spooky Boo. Anyways, I'll tag her. She told my story today, and she's somebody I look up to like no other. I'm just like her. Her story about Ozempic was exactly my story. I'm overweight. I'm depressed. I had anxiety as a kid. I just got in a very, very dark place. Also, like she said, I tried to duet her video, but she doesn't have that feature, so I thought, this is my time. I have to say something. I went on this drug not because I have diabetes, because I had friends and people bragging and how much weight they lost and how good they look because they're taking Ozempic. And I'm heavy. I eat my emotions away. When I cry, I eat. And it's just something I do, and I've always done because of my past. But my doctor that I've had my whole life, that I trust, like I would if he was my uncle, my father, he told me that it'd be great for me and that I should take it and I'll lose weight, and I'm not diabetic. I don't have any issues with my blood sugar or anything. But let me tell you, that Ozempic, exactly like she said, I didn't even get taught how to use it, how to take it. I honestly Googled it on YouTube just to try how to do it. I called the people that were using it to see, and I kept taking it and taking it. I took 3 doses, and like she says, anxiety started. You feel like you're dying. You're having like huge anxiety attacks. I was so scared. I'm constantly wanting to puke, throw up. I thought a few times I was going to die. And the last day was, I went to the washroom and my stools were full of blood. Now this time, guys, I just went through losing my best friend. No sleep. I haven't slept in 2 weeks. And I've never lost anybody that I loved as much as I loved her. So to go through all this, plus the doctor keep pushing me and pushing me and pushing me on all these pills. So I'm taking blood pressure pills. Oh, you got high blood pressure. Take these. Not 1, but take 3. I had to take 3 generic because I couldn't afford the expensive brand. So I'm taking 3 of those. Then, oh, you're depressed. Take this. Take 2. And then, oh, you have acid reflux. Take this. And, oh, you have this. Take this. I was taking so many drugs. So many drugs. Many drugs on top of that Ozempic.
Because if they're supposed to be the experts and the science, and they know the science behind this, while your average person who is thinking about, oh, I just want to lose 10 pounds, they not do their research, right? They're just listening to their friends and family members or celebrities, somebody who they look up to, like the Oprah Winfrey's, right? You become a role model for the rest of the population. So Oprah lost 50 pounds. Oh, Allegedly, I'm not sure if she did, but I know she looked like she lost some weight. But a lot of people are going about their weight loss taking medications, and a lot of times when you are losing weight from taking medications, it's never healthy. The only healthy way to lose weight is by eating right and exercising. That's the only healthy way. Of course, nobody wants to do that. They want an easy way out. And the easy way out a lot of times come with a lot of side effect, and it doesn't always work. It doesn't always work. Yeah, just watch the rest of this video. Hopefully you will learn something from it. Hopefully you could tell your family members about it. Whoever seems to have any kind of weight issue right now and is thinking about losing it. I'm sure taking some kind of magic pill would be the easy way out. But honestly, that could also be a death pill. And something that could do some kind of damage to their body that is irreversible. Like, I'm talking about damage that is irreversible. So watch the rest of the videos. There's so many testimonials from people who are on their journey to losing weight, and they decided Ozempic was gonna do it. And you only hear about the good side. You never hear about the bad side. People are gonna brag about losing 20 pounds, losing 30 pounds, losing 40 pounds. But when they go to the bathroom and they keep shitting blood, they will not tell you about that. When they're having stomach issues and they can't stop throwing up, they will not tell you about that. Right? When they've reached the target weights they want to lose and they cannot stop losing, they will not tell you about that. When they can never regain their appetite back from taking Ozempic, they will not tell you about that. And they would only tell you about the good sides. It's kind of like gamblers. They only tell you about how much money they won. They never tell you about how much money they lost. So they just want to, make themselves look like something is going well for them. It's the same thing for people who are on their journey to losing weight. Most people will not tell you they're taking medications. They're going to act like they were working out. That's the reason they lost weight. Come on now. When you're working out, weight loss from working out, it looks healthy. But weight loss from taking medications, a lot of times it does not look healthy. The person just look improportional. They look tired. They look weak. When you're exercising and you're losing weight from that, you actually look stronger. You look vibrant. You look more alive. So my advice to you and your family members, if you know anybody who's maybe morbidly obese, you need to share this video with them. When I mean share this video with them, they may be taking Ozempic already and not telling you about it, because everybody who is fat wants to lose weight. They may not be honest about what they're really trying to do, but everyone who I know is fat, deep down inside, is really thinking about losing weight. If they're not already working on it, they are thinking about at some point in my life, I'm going to work on losing weight. Most people are going to go about it the right way, which is basically eating right and exercising. But this is America. America want the easy way out. More and more we want the easy way out, especially this generation. So I could guarantee you more than 50% of the people who are trying to lose weight are not going to go about it by eating right and exercising, especially not this generation. They're going to go about it, find other means to their weight loss, but not doing it the right way. And a lot of these other means come with negative side effect.
And when I had my son with me all the time, I was wanting to die. I was so scared. I didn't know what was happening, but I thought, my girlfriend's gone. She died because of doctors misdiagnose. It's like nobody cares about society anymore. There's no faith. There's nothing. And I just went to the bathroom the one day, and that's what did it for me. My stools were full of blood. It looked like a murder scene. I had my son take the picture because I knew nobody would believe me. I called 911. I thought, this is my time now. I'm dying. Just turned 50.
This is when you shouldn't use.
And I'm a druggie. People who know me know I don't touch nothing. I have never touched any drugs in all my life. I'm not one to do drugs. I'm not one to go crazy and do anything like that. So if you know me, you know. There's no way. So then, when I get there, The only person that helped me was this beautiful 20-year-old security guard, not a doctor, a security guard. I had stools coming out of my butt left, right, and center, nonstop. It's like I was bleeding out, and I was so scared, you guys. Next thing you know, the Homewood person comes. They say I'm crazy. I had 6 bouncers grab me. And it was embarrassing because I used to work at this hospital and I knew all the people in there. Even the bouncers. I'm like, you guys know me. You know I'm not crazy. And I was calling out for God to help me. Because I've never been so scared in all my life. They shoved a needle in my arm. And next thing you know, I woke up not knowing where I was, scared to death.
In just a few years, Ozempic has become a household name and a cultural phenomenon. GLP-1 drugs are everywhere, and already 1 in 8 US adults have tried them. The Danish company that makes Ozempic is worth more than the Coca-Cola company and McDonald's combined. Look online and you'll see comments about Ozempic face, hair loss, severe stomach problems, and dangerous side effects. And then a moment later, you'll see a report that it could help with fertility or treating Alzheimer's or even shopping addiction. And it's not just weight loss drugs. We've been lied to about weight loss itself for years now. How much do we know about GLP-1 drugs, and are we being told the full truth about them? I've spent the last few months diving into the research and even tried to get some GLP-1 medication myself to see what's really going on here. At this point, I spent a lot of time on social media digesting what the discourse is out there about this medication. One of the pieces of misinformation I'm seeing over and over again is this idea that these drugs are brand new, that they're not well studied, and that they're not well understood.
It's not studied for this. You know, there's no studies on what it does to a body without diabetes.
There is no research on a person that is not diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
So we know that this line that they're untested or not understood is just not true. They've been studied a lot for both safety and efficacy for both diabetes and weight loss. Thousands of people have been studied in clinical trials specifically for obesity, but not for diabetes. The new phenomenon is that Ozempic is a household name, and it became a household name because of its weight loss effects. However, it's part of a class of drugs that have been used for decades to help people with type 2 diabetes regulate their blood sugar. And just in that regard, it's been a huge medical breakthrough. I think we could probably critique that on its own, in that our society is so weight obsessed that none of these diabetes treatments were a household name, even though 1.5 million people die of it each year. But as soon as it started making celebrities skinny, all of us were talking about it. That's probably worth unpacking, but that's more than we will have time to do here. So when Novo Nordisk started testing these drugs as an obesity treatment, the outcome of those trials suggested that these are the most effective weight loss drugs ever. So the main ingredient in Ozempic is semaglutide. It's part of a class of drugs called GLP-1 receptor agonists, which basically just means they mimic a hormone that naturally occurs in your body called GLP-1. Semaglutide is in both Ozempic and Wegovy, but Wegovy is the one that's FDA approved for weight loss. If these medications are paired with a healthy diet and exercise, people who are on semaglutide lost on average 15% of their body weight. The people who were just dieting and exercising lost on average 2.4% of their body weight. A newer drug made by Eli Lilly called tirzepatide did even better in its clinical trials, with people losing an average of 20% of their body weight. And so based on that data, we started to have all this very hyped news coverage about how these drugs were a game changer and a blockbuster, and how maybe obesity would be cured forever, which honestly is kind of a bizarre framing. Even from the very first studies, there were people who were not responding to these drugs. Yes, it's a really big deal that 86% of people in a trial lost a significant amount of weight. However, that means 14% of people didn't. Despite all this talk about miracle drugs, the figures are basically the same for both semaglutide and tirzepatide. Roughly 1 in 10 people don't lose significant weight while on this medication and are what's called non-responders. I really wanted to speak to someone who went through this, so I put a survey up on BI's social media channels, and that's how I found Erica.
It's working for other people. Like, why isn't it working for me and my body chemistry? But I'm mad it didn't work, but then I accept it, and I just got to find another way to lose the weight.
Erica says her doctor didn't warn her that these drugs don't work for everybody. Like many of us, most of her information came mainly from media coverage. When you set these drugs up as a miracle or a magic pill, You're also setting people up for massive disappointment if they had high hopes of weight loss and then these drugs don't work for them. There is one more thing that a lot of coverage has missed. Real life is not the same as a clinical trial. Since those first trials and all that news coverage, there's been more data about what real-world usage looks like. A 2023 study followed people on semaglutide for 52 weeks, and those people lost an average of 4.4% of their body weight. So we went from 15% down to 4%, which is a dramatic difference. Most of the early coverage of these drugs used the numbers from the clinical trials, which makes sense because it was the first time these drugs were studied. The subsequent real-world usage impacts have not gotten as much press coverage. And that definitely feeds into an inflated sense of how revolutionary these drugs could be. Certainly, they are a really big deal. They're more effective than prior drugs, but there are limitations. The other thing that I think might be getting lost here is that weight loss from these drugs will have a plateau, which is similar to diet, to exercise, and even to bariatric surgery. At some point, every weight loss intervention plateaus.
There's this popular conception that losing weight is the hard part and maintaining weight loss should be easy. What we know is that it's actually the opposite, right? The maintenance of weight loss is actually the hardest part.
You wouldn't want a drug that allows you to lose unlimited amounts of weight. That would be dangerous for one, and then you'd have to go off of it when you reached your goal weight, and then you would just start to climb back up again, and it would be this constant yo-yo. However, that doesn't stop people from talking about this plateau like it's some sort of betrayal of the drug or some sort of failure of this medication. All evidence points to needing to keep taking these drugs to keep benefiting from them, which is interesting because we have study data showing that most people don't keep taking them. One study looked at thousands of people with GLP-1 prescriptions and found that about half of them stopped taking it after a year, and 70% of them stopped taking it at the 2-year mark. And another study found that after stopping the medication, people regained on average 2/3 of the weight that they'd lost. This is perhaps another big reason to dial down the hype machine on these medications. A lot of people hear that this is a long-term, potentially lifelong medication, and they see big pharma dollar signs. The cynic in all of us sort of wakes up and says, what a win for big pharma. It's true that it is a win for big pharma. They're probably going to make a ton of money on this, and there is absolutely no denying that. I understand why people are mistrusting of pharmaceutical companies and the media coverage around them. At this point, we've seen some very irresponsible reporting. I think it's really important to be clear-eyed about the role of big pharmaceutical companies in our society. With just a quick Google, you can see that Novo Nordisk has paid fines after being accused of shady sales tactics. They've faced criticism for spending loads of money wining and dining doctors, and that they've gotten in trouble with regulators in multiple countries. More famously, Novo Nordisk, along with other drug makers, faced massive criticism for high insulin prices. Nowadays, insulin is less profitable than it once was. But the potential profits of weight loss drugs remain astronomical. And make no mistake, Novo Nordisk will be cashing in on these drugs, and already is. At one point, the company's valuation was bigger than the entire GDP of Denmark. Understandably, some people who don't trust big pharma or simply don't have access to these drugs are turning to natural alternatives.
Let's talk a little bit more about Nature's Ozempic.
Nature's Ozempic.
Nature's Ozempic.
Nature's Ozempic.
Nature's Ozempic.
You'll find people presenting berberine, peppermint tea, green tea, vitamin B12, high fiber diets, high protein diets, all of these things as being natural alternatives to taking Ozempic. There are certain foods that can increase the amount of GLP-1 hormone that your body makes. The part where they get it wrong is that that doesn't necessarily equate to weight loss, which appears to be the goal of many people consuming this content. The level of GLP-1 production that diets can provide is nowhere near what you can achieve with prescription medications.
These interventions are leading to supraphysiological levels of GLP-1, as opposed to kind of modest changes in your diet or some supplement that you could take. These are just orders of magnitude different, and you're not going to see anywhere near the same effects.
But between influencer nutritionists and supplement grifters, we're seeing tremendous amounts of misinformation online about how effective a GLP-1 boosting diet can be. These foods and vitamins are generally less risky than a serious prescription drug, but they're almost definitely less effective as well. This is another subject of intensive news coverage where I think we just need to turn the hype dial down a little bit and look at what the research actually tells us. I also think people pay a lot of attention to side effects of these drugs because we've had plenty of examples of prescription drugs coming onto the market, and a side effect no one knew about ends up being very serious, particularly for weight loss drugs. The most common side effects of these medications are gastrointestinal, things like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. These can seem a little bit trivial, just like tummy trouble or whatever, but they can be quite serious. Extended periods of vomiting or diarrhea can leave you dangerously dehydrated. It's even been reported that one woman died while taking these drugs after months of gastrointestinal issues, including severe vomiting and abdominal pain. Besides the GI issues, the FDA label for these drugs includes a number of other warnings, some of which are for very serious conditions. So if we just pull up the label now, there's what's called a black box warning about the risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. The warning label mentions findings in rodents, but a GLP-1 researcher I spoke to said that the thyroid in rodents and humans is quite different, so those findings probably aren't relevant.
Sometimes by putting a warning label on because of initial good intentions, you can cause more harm by scaring away people who otherwise might be willing to take this medicine and benefit from the medicine.
While the link between GLP-1 medication and thyroid cancer has been hard to establish, the link between obesity and thyroid cancer is much clearer. One study found that for every 5-point increase in BMI, the risk of thyroid cancer increases by 30%. There's also another category on this label called warnings and precautions, and it includes acute pancreatitis, acute gallbladder disease, hypoglycemia, acute kidney injury, hypersensitivity reactions, diabetic retinopathy, heart rate increase, and behavior and ideation. The label here just says monitor for depression or thoughts, discontinue Wegovy if symptoms develop. That's not very reassuring to me. This is an ongoing and evolving thing, but the weight of evidence so far suggests that these drugs alone are not going to cause you to have thoughts. It is not uncommon for drugs to have very intimidating, if not downright scary-looking FDA warning labels. It's important to remember that things listed on these labels are potential risks rather than guaranteed results, which actually does seem to get lost in the shuffle a bit on social media. Most of the more serious side effects of GLP-1 drugs are on the rare side. Most people who take these medications will not get pancreatitis. Sometimes people wonder why a drug could be approved if it has so many alarming side effects. But it's really not uncommon. If you look at metformin, a very popular diabetes medication, it has a warning for potentially fatal lactic acidosis. If you look at the label for ibuprofen, it has a warning about potential increased risk of stroke. These things are calculated in the context of being sick. If you take these drugs and don't have a medical need for them, your risk calculation is different, and you are putting yourself at greater risk of harm.
Your neighbor who is interested in taking this medicine to lose 10 pounds so they can get into a size 8 dress for Uncle Harry's wedding, they weren't studied in a clinical trial.
But besides what's on the label, which is scary enough on its own, there's all these rumors on social media about a whole other category of effects that are mostly cosmetic, things like Ozempic face or hair loss. And it's not just hair loss. There's been a ton of concern about how much muscle people lose while taking GLP-1 drugs. However, whenever you lose weight, even if it's just through diet and exercise, you do tend to lose some lean muscle. One thing that's often forgotten in this whole conversation is that weight loss itself can have some very serious side effects, particularly rapid or extreme weight loss. Even losing weight fast through diet has been linked to hair loss, muscle loss, depression, gallstones, all side effects that overlap with the side effects of Ozempic. So it's really hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. Personally, I think this is just another example of how the conversation around Ozempic has just gotten really weird. People seem to want there to be a punishment for taking a vanity drug and almost gleefully report this idea that your face or your hair or whatever would fail you when you've taken a step to make your body look nicer. At least that's the perception. And to be sure, some people have taken Ozempic as a vanity drug. These drugs became a household name because celebrities were touting them for weight loss, and in many cases, already thin celebrities were touting their weight loss benefits. Not the bad, but there are also some really interesting positive effects that these drugs potentially have. Not only do they make you crave less food, they make you desire different, usually healthier food.
There's a physiological response that causes some people to be more preoccupied with food than others. People I talk to who have been suffering from food noise say the drug feels like a switch is being flipped in their brains.
People have now reported other cravings going away too, like the urge to online shop. These drugs could help with all kinds of conditions: Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, alcohol addiction, and other types of addiction, depression. There's even anecdotal reports of Ozempic babies, which are people whose fertility improved while they were on these drugs. All these things aren't so much side effects as they are potentially brand new indications for the drugs, brand new conditions that they could treat. GLP-1 drugs have a really unusually high number of potential new indications. A lot of people seem to want it to be true that these drugs could actually save healthcare systems money, that we spend so much on treating obesity and related conditions that these drugs could actually be a net money saver. And while that might eventually happen, especially if the cost of these drugs goes down, that is a very rare feat for a drug to pull off. The most important thing to remember is that if you see estimates of how much a certain drug is going to cost U.S. healthcare systems or how much obesity costs America in general, remember that these are really rough estimates. And that's important because the stigma that people with obesity face is often couched in this idea that they're a tremendous financial burden to the healthcare system. I have seen countless comments saying, why do you need Ozempic if you can just eat healthier? Why do you need to take these drugs? What you're looking for is willpower. It simply doesn't make sense to talk about Ozempic as being the easy way out. The easy way out implies there's another way out. And for a lot of people, there just isn't.
What these medicines have taught us is that a huge number of people living with obesity, they were restricting their calories. They were following diets. They were exercising. And it just didn't work for them, even though they really wanted it to work. And now we have something that helps them. And guess what? They're losing weight.
For a long time, and we're only just starting to figure it out. The reality is that we, both as a culture and the medical community, have been significantly underplaying how difficult it is to lose weight, and especially how difficult it is to maintain weight loss. We have a ton of data on this at this point, and we know that drastic weight loss is exceedingly rare and is usually temporary. Over time, we've also learned that exercise is not nearly as big of a factor in weight loss as people tend to suggest. It has many benefits and is still important for overall health, but burning more calories is not a guaranteed path to weight loss. Many studies have shown at this point that even in the best of circumstances, where we're combining diet, exercise, and behavioral counseling, people tend to only lose 5 to 10% of their body weight. Then after that, your body fights back. When you lose weight, your body starts to release hormones that increase appetite and reduce feelings of fullness. So there's actually a biological mechanism encouraging people to eat more as weight is lost. Studies on people who've lost quite a lot of weight have found that they burn fewer calories than scientists expected, even when you account for the fact that their bodies are smaller and they're carrying less weight around.
If you lose, roughly 20 pounds or so, and you're maintaining that 20-pound weight loss, you're probably burning about 250 calories per day, less than you were before you lost the weight. And we've known that for a very long time.
The advice that doctors gave for years was that all it takes is small tweaks to your lifestyle. Swap your bag of chips for an apple or take the stairs. You can still find all kinds of advice like that online. And it's actually, frankly, bizarre that after decades of research supporting the idea that this is a very complex issue, so many people insist on acting like it's easy. It is understandable to have anxiety about medicating millions of people for what's seen as a wider societal issue. And some people say this is a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. Those bigger problems being things like our food system or our sedentary lifestyles. And yes, there would likely be tremendous social benefit to addressing those very complex systemic problems. But for now, we have a relatively safe and effective drug that can give people another tool to manage their health in the meantime. So maybe it's a Band-Aid, but sometimes you just need a Band-Aid.
So share this video, and if you like the content on the channel, make sure you subscribe and like all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time.